machine.
KidneyCard.ca.
Sports 1440 in West Edmonton Mall and Wetaskiwin. CKJR is a Stingray radio station.
Download the free radio player app and listen wherever you go.
This is Hoop City with Paul Sir on Sports 1440.
They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Curry, wait a time. Oh, what a shot from Curry.
Here's your host, Paul Sir.
Good morning and welcome to Hoop City with Paul Sir. I'm with you today from Iowa, where I grew up. I'm in my parents' farmhouse with my 92-year-old mother, who still stubbornly remains on the farm, just filled with determination and courage. And I'll tell you, it's a pleasure to be here, but it's a pleasure to be with you as well. Josh, good morning. Thanks so much for hooking us up and making us bringing us live to our listeners with all of the technology available today.
Yeah, Paul, happy to do it. Happy to see you. Glad you made it to Iowa alive. I did check out my front door this morning with a pair of binoculars. Made sure you got there all right. I could see you standing between the corn. So, glad.
Nice try. You're right, though. That's definitely a big part of Iowa. But excited to have this show today. There's so much going on right now. We are on the cusp of March Madness. We're in the month of March, of course, but the madness is it actually has begun. I had the opportunity yesterday to watch a lot of the Big Ten women's events going on, and it's fantastic basketball. And Selection Sunday is only a week away. So why don't we get started today? If you'd share with our listeners our text line and then our poll question as well, Josh.
Absolutely. So if you want to get in touch with us, you can text us at 833-401-1440. That's 833-401-1440. And our poll question today: who is your GOAT in the NBA? Is it Jordan? Is it LeBron? Or is it other? And then this is where the text line comes in. Again, 833-401-1440. Let us know who your GOAT is and why. Best answer gets a Hoop City 3x3 hoodie. It's at a $60 value.
Yeah, it's a great hoodie. It looks good, feels good, and I think it's a great question to ask too, because of course the contemporary discussion is always around LeBron versus Michael Jordan, and but people have a lot of opinions. If you're from different eras and generations, there's a lot of other selections that you can look at, and we're just looking for your rationale as why, and we'll pick a winner and we'll send you a hoodie. So I'm excited that we're going to be able to do that. I really look forward to sharing the conversation I had with Ben Golliver yesterday on our deep dive in the second hour. I think it's one of our, I think every conversation with Ben is illuminating and is fantastic, but this I think was exceptional. We really were able to get into some of the things that are going on right now in a unique way, and I think people will really enjoy the discussions that we have. So that's in the second hour. Our community champion, this is serendipitous, Josh. I was at my granddaughter's basketball game at Otwell Junior High the other day when they squared off against McKernan in the junior high school playoffs. My son Steve coaches at Otwell as well. And I coached my sons at Otwell Junior High all those decades ago. We have a tremendous family tradition there. But at the game was a young man by the name of Sabri Phillips. Now, Sabri was a fantastic player at Harry Ainley High School. And after high school, Sabri went on a long journey down through the United States to a number of different university experience. He had to overcome serious injuries in able to continue and to complete his career. He did play with the Stingers last year as well. Sabri is an Otwell Junior High alumnus rather. And so the opportunity to reconnect with Sabri, it was a real easy decision for me to name him as our community champion because he's back in Edmonton. He's working with young people in training them to become better basketball players. So we'll talk with Sabri in our next segment. But right now, there's a lot to talk about, and I'd really like to get into let's go into the 3+1.
Absolutely. Let me get over to my wee little
Sure.
tab here. All right. So a couple quick hitters. Spurs comeback last night. Luka and his absolutely monster stat line without LeBron or Ayton. Denver crushing the Knicks. Are the Nuggets? Denver was crushed by the Knicks. My apologies. Okay. Denver getting crushed by the Knicks. Are the Nuggets in trouble?
Well, it's Spurs first. I don't know if people saw the game or saw the highlight of Wemby's dunk to put the Spurs up 114-113 at the time for the win. But the significance of this game were two principal things. Number one, first and foremost, the Spurs came back from 25 down in the third quarter to find a way to win. Wemby, as he is wont to do, was very emotional after the game. The guy is a winner, and he just lives and breathes winning. But Kawhi Leonard came back to San Antonio, where he won championships with them, and he put on a show with 30 points. And the no-name Clippers, they keep finding ways to play competitive basketball against the best teams in the league. So it was quite an impressive comeback. And I think that what we were able to see was a precursor of just how hard how much winning means to the San Antonio Spurs. So that's number one. Luka goes off for 44 without LeBron, without Ayton. Ayton is on the cusp of almost depression right now, it seems, because he's taking so much heat for his performance in LA. But it was impressive to see what Luka Doncic looked like Luka Doncic last night. He was quicker. He was more energetic. He didn't look so slow. The other day I was thinking there used to be this descriptor of the Lakers when it was the Magic era back in the 80s, and they called it Showtime. And sometimes when I'm watching the Lakers right now, I think it's slow time because you watch Luka getting up and down the court. It's just painful. But last night it was what Luka Doncic is capable of. So great game, and we'll see if that's an indicator of how he's going to be able to play if he stays healthy for the rest of the year. And then finally, though, and this, Josh, is this is the one that really floored me. Knicks go in and score 142 points in Denver, beat the Nuggets by 39. Jamal Murray limps off the court. Jokic had a nice night, but the rest of the Nuggets were just dreadful. I don't want to say a lot about it because Ben Golliver and I go into detail about the Nuggets' woes right now and the Jokic's challenges. But wow, New York's good. They're not. They shouldn't be that good. But to go into Denver and to have that kind of a humiliating defeat, that really jumps out at you and says maybe is it just a bad night, or is this an indicator of other that go along with other games where the Nuggets just haven't looked impressive? And I don't know, Josh, how closely you're following it, but it really appears right now that the Nuggets are struggling.
I've been keeping tabs on everybody in the NBA. Obviously, my young brain can only remember so much, but Jokic has not been the same player since he came back from his hyperextended knee, which is a problem. This is a real problem. But sometimes sometimes a year is a year, injuries suck but unfortunately they're part of the game. So hopefully the Nuggets will turn it around. Obviously, I think there's still going to be trouble in the playoffs, but to the Knicks of all people, Nikola Jokic, you're supposed to bully the hell out of Cat because he couldn't stop anything. If I threw a basketball at the side of a barn and then he was sprawled out times 10, he wouldn't be able to stop it. And yet here we are. The Knicks blow out the Nuggets by basically 40.
Yeah, they do. They took it to them. And what was interesting is Brunson's numbers were underwhelming. Like when I saw that, I thought, well, Brunson must have had 50, but I think he had like 13. I don't have the stats in front of me, but it was a not a Brunson game in terms of numbers. And it wasn't even Karl Anthony Towns. It was OG Anunoby's night. He had a huge night. I think he had 30. But I think Ben and I talk a lot about the Nuggets, but I think that was prior to this game actually being played, and I think you hit it right on the head. But there's something that I touch on later, but it's this: Jokic is not the same player mentally as well as physically from before his injury. The other night when Luguentz Dort, who I love the fact that Luguentz Dort is a very good player in the NBA. He's part of he's an NBA champion. He's recognized first team All NBA as a great defender, and he is. Guy's just a phenomenal physical specimen. He's a football player playing basketball, and that's not demeaning. He's just extremely strong, quick, athletic. He would have been a great defensive back, linebacker type player. But that often viewed YouTube moment where he nudges into Jokic's knee, that should have been a suspension, a multi-game suspension. That was intent to injure, uncalled for, unnecessary, which he admitted later. And that's where the Canadian comes out in Dort, is he owns up to his mistakes. And I appreciate that about him. But there's a lot of other instances where he's just plain dirty and looking like he's trying to hurt people. Not intentionally, but the type of plays he's making will hurt people and you can have serious effects. And that's certainly what he did to Jokic. Jokic, that really seems to have unraveled Jokic in that moment, but it's carried forward too, as he's been much more volatile and much more frustrated. So he was really in a bubble, Josh, where the game was so easy for him when he was in the MVP. He was the favorite for the MVP this year, in spite of the great year SGA was having prior to both of their injuries. But since they've come back from their injury, SGA has definitely been able to right the ship and get back to normal, where Nikola, he's still having great games, but he's not the player he was, as you said. And he's also much less confident, and his three has just evaporated. Absolutely. I mean, I've seen the last 3 games. I think he's 1 for 7, 0 for 11, like just absolutely brutal numbers. So, but here's the asterisk to your point, Josh. It's the season is filled with ebbs and flows. There are no continuums that run for the full 82 games. And what worked then doesn't work now. You have to find your way back. And I think that's clearly where the Nuggets are. They have a couple of key starters that are still injured. They need them back. Jokic needs to find himself, and hopefully Jamal Murray isn't hurt too badly.
Yeah. Just one more thing before we move on, essentially, with the Lou Dort, is our learned friend Low Tide, Alan Mitchell. One of his coined phrases is, you develop a past. And as much as like this Lou Dort, like, oh man, whoops, maybe I wasn't trying to intend to injure this guy. I wasn't trying to. The more that happens, the more it just starts to seem it's like, hey man, you keep doing this. It definitely, like, you're definitely trying to injure somebody.
Well, as you say, Alan is definitely up on Mount Olympus, streaming out knowledge to us every day that he comes on the radio. But he's right on the mark with that, 100%. You are. If there's another saying I would add to that. If someone tells you who they are, believe them. And the thing with Dort, he's doing this enough now. You have to believe that this is just dirty play. And one of the criticisms of the Thunder, and you always have to cushion this with, is this jealousy? Is this people trying to undermine the Thunder, or are they truly a dirty team? And a lot of teams make that claim that the Thunder, they're overly physical. The officials don't call it. There was a great. I'll jump back to Jokic, and it was another member of the Thunder, and that's Caruso. Again, another tough, hard-nosed player, noted for his defense. But last year, when you watched the Denver OKC series, and Caruso would go in and guard Jokic, he's doing what I consider to be the cardinal sin of any defender, and that is to move under a bigger players' knees when you're guarding from behind, because that takes up their space and it doesn't allow their knees to function normally. And that I have a huge objection to. That's not good defense. That's dirty defense. And I think there's fair commentary on what the Thunder are doing, quite honestly, because they do get carried away. And there's another aspect to the Thunder where Mike Brown came out the other night and said that SGA is the best in the league at getting the refs to call fouls and getting them to the free throw line. SGA leads the league, I believe, in free throw attempts, and he's a phenomenal free throw shooter. And that really is a combination of skill, technique, intelligence, and to a certain extent, Brown's right. He really is, because SGA does get calls that other players don't seem to. But on the other hand, players bite and are baited into it, much like they used to be with James Harden, particularly, where they just develop a technique where it looks like players are grabbing them, even though SGA often extends his arms and pushes and creates space in a way that generally is supposed to be an offensive foul, not a defensive foul.
Yeah, all very interesting. Why don't we hop over to number 2 here?
Let's do it.
All right, number 2, Jason Tatum. He made his triumphant return last night for the Boston Celtics 10 months after his Achilles injury. Posted a stat line of 15, 12, and 7. Is this hurried or a heroic return?
Probably both. But I think one thing that, if you want to use the most absurd, well, first of all, let's talk about what Achilles injuries are like. I personally have happened to had one.
That's awful.
It's absolutely brutal, because the Achilles tendon has no circulation that goes to it. It's kind of like cutting a rope. And in fact, this is the grotesque reality of what happened to me. I was just running down the court and my Achilles snapped, and it literally felt like a rope snapping. And there was a pop, loud pop. So I talked to a friend of mine who happened to be a veterinarian, after I was in a cast, and he said, "Oh yeah, that's a common injury among middle-aged dogs." But and that time I was about 38, so I was definitely in the middle-aged dog era. But for a young player like Tatum, the way that they're able to rehab now compared to what they were, this was 35 years ago. It's come a long way. Medicine, training techniques, etc. Adrian Peterson snapped his Achilles. I came back within 6 months for the Minnesota Vikings and led the NFL in rushing. Had, I believe, a record year, over 2,000 yards.
Just absolutely nuts.
Now, I happen to know through my brother who the surgeon was in the Twin Cities. And my brother Pat and I were talking to him, and he said, A, Peterson's a freak of nature, but B, you really can come back a lot faster now if you're willing to put the work in. Obviously, Tatum has put the work in, because physically he looked great. His first basket last night was a putback dunk. So he looked good. He looked really solid. He doesn't look like he's certainly not hobbled. He's ready to play. It'll be interesting to see how the Celtics manage his minutes in having him come back. And also Ben and I go into, how is this going to work for the Celtics? Because the Celtics have exceeded everybody's expectations this year. Is Tatum going to compete with Jaylen Brown? Because this is clearly Jaylen Brown's team this year. Or is he going to be an asset? I think he'll be an asset, but I would go more heroic than hurried. But time will tell, and I'm sure they'll do a good job of managing his minutes.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it hurried, but I don't know if I call it heroic. I mean, they're sitting second in the East. I think they were doing okay without their proverbial top dog with them.
Yeah, but here's why I consider it somewhat heroic from the standpoint of, you add a player of Tatum's ilk and ability into a lineup that has exceeded expectations like that, and you start looking at a long playoff run, to have an asset like that, if he remains healthy and he's effective, how does that pump up their chances against a strong Detroit team and some of the other Cleveland, Eastern Conference teams that are doing so well?
Oh, hey, great point. All right, let's get to number 3. WNBA deadline is March 10th for a collective bargaining deal to be made. Why hasn't this been brought to a conclusion?
Because they're led by a bunch of idiots. And that starts with the players and goes up into the management. And to a certain extent, I think ownership. Talk about and I've used this phrase many times. Saturday Night Live, when they started the show back in 1975, the name of the troupe of comedians that were leading the way were called the Not Ready for Primetime Players. And that certainly is the WNBA. The horrific way people surrounding the league and within the league handled Caitlin Clark, catapulting the league to an untold high level of relevance, and the pettiness and the way that they handled that, and still continue to handle that, by the way, to this bargaining, the way that players have been so outspoken and feeling like they're entitled to something that they have no grasp or understanding of, obviously, just feeling entitled not just to receive the benefits that they think they deserve, but also to speak in caustic, condescending tones about the people that pay them their money. And now we have a March 10th deadline, and paychecks, I'll tell you what, you're going to be feeling it when your paychecks don't show up. So I think the WNBA has handled this as poorly as any league could possibly handle it. I hope cooler heads will prevail. A deal will get done, because the most important thing is that they get back on the court, and this league with this star power gets the opportunity to continue to show people why they should watch, because there's a lot of stuff to watch out there, basketball and other in sports. And if you kill the goose that laid the golden egg by trying to be entitled and above it all, that won't necessarily help you as you go forward.
Making a lot of sense to me, Paul. Making a lot of sense to me. All right, just the +1. I know we got Sabri waiting. March Madness has begun. Conference tournaments have started for women. Men wrap up their regular season this weekend, and conference tournaments Selection Sunday. That's next week. Canadian Championships for youth sports, ACAC Championships going on this weekend. Maybe you want to break this all down at 10:40. That's a lot.
We'll break it down at 10:40. The only thing I'll say is 10:40, I'm going to primarily talk about the Canadian March Madness. Do something that not enough outlets do across this great country, giving the attention it deserves to our elite college athletes. But I would just say, man, if you have a time today, check out the games between Ohio State and UCLA on the women's side, and then Iowa versus Michigan. Michigan has a great player, Canadian player, Shyla Swords. She's outstanding. That's going to be an epic battle between Iowa, who's very, very good, and in a fantastic Michigan team. So we'll definitely delve into that more in the 10:40 segment. But let's take a break right now, Josh, and we'll come back with Sabri Phillips, our community champion today. So glad you're with us today on Hoop City with Paul Sir, Josh Fenwick. We'll be back right after these messages.
Jason Greger isn't just a sports guy. He's a community builder with over $3 million raised for local charities.
And his Greger Foundation.
He's making a difference on and off the air. Check out Greger weekday afternoons on Sports 1440.
Legacy Heating and Cooling is the #1 furnace install company for sailors because they know the value of a warm port. And they sing, there was a ship who fought the cold, who sailed the sea with a furnacey load. She brought the heat to IEG, and her name was Legacy. Through icy wind and winter squall, her fire she burned for one and all with a comfort chugging guarantee, and her name was Legacy. No payments, no! Yep, no payments and no interest for 1 year on your new furnace. Don't trust just any ports in a winter storm. Trust Legacy Heating and Cooling.
Saturday mornings live on Sports 1440.
Powered by Subaru.
Safety, reliability, and uncommon value. Visit Subaru.ca.
The weather doesn't care about your shift or your schedule. Carhartt Rain Defender sweatshirts let you battle back against the ever-changing elements. Carhartt's durable, water-repellent technology lets light rain beat up and roll right off. Layer up and stay on the job longer without getting drenched. Get your Carhartt Rain Defender sweatshirts at all 3 of our Edmonton job site workwear locations.
Job site workwear, tough different jobs.
Take the pain out of airport parking with Park to Go. Your first-class parking experience. Book self-serve and valet parking and save up to 30%. Book now with promo code RADIO. That's RADIO.
a huge thank you for making Sports 1440 the most listened to sports radio station in Edmonton. From Gregor to Carius to Low Tide, we've got in-depth analysis on all your favorite sports. We are Sports 1440. This is Hoop City with Paul Sir on Sports 1440.
They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Curry, way downtown. Bang! Bang! Oh, what a shot from Curry! We did it!
Here's your host, Paul Sir.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm just making, there we go. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome to Hoop City. Paul Sir, Josh Fenwick joining you on this great Saturday morning. And I'm really, really excited about this segment. This is our community champion segment. It was sponsored by Innovative Benefits. If it's time for you to review your company benefits, personal insurance plans, or investment strategies, talk to Randy and his team at Innovative Benefits. They will give you the straightforward and honest advice with access to the very best products in the industry. Trust the great folks at Innovative Benefits to do what's best for you, your family, and your business. To find out more, go to innovativebenefits.ca. As I mentioned in my opening comments, I bumped into this young man at a junior high school basketball game where he played his junior high school basketball. Otwell Junior High, and Sabri Phillips led the Titans to a junior high school basketball championship and then went on to a great career at Harry Ainley High School, and then went south of the border on what I would have to call an odyssey. So I'd like to welcome in Sabri Phillips, who is our community champion this morning. Sabri, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's great to have you here, Sabri.
I appreciate
I'm going to start. I'm going to start at the beginning. Let's talk. I mean, I met you when you were a little kid. I was not any kind of a genius to recognize that you were something special in terms of your ability as a basketball player.
I appreciate that.
Well, it's a gospel truth, my friend. And you led the Titans to a junior high championship. I remember watching the championship game over at Ross Shepherd High School.
Yeah.
And you went on to play at Harry Ainley. Talk about your experience at Harry Ainley over the 3 years that you played for Coach George Hoyt.
Playing at Harry Ainley was probably a top 2 experience in my whole basketball career. It made me the man I am today. I ran into the good man, George Hoyt, who is a leader of men and really was like a father figure to me, honestly, and took me under his wing. That's where I was able to see the likes of Ahir Ugwak, and learn more about the Steve Sirs of our community and kind of get inspiration and what led on to, like you said, a great career.
Well, it was a great career, of course, in high school. And then talk about your dream to play in the United States and how it started, and walk us through your journey, because it truly was a journey, Sabri. And please share the obstacles that you had to overcome. I mean, you had a catastrophic, almost what for a lot of people would have been career-ending injury. But walk us through your career in the U.S. In NCAA Division I and the JUCO experiences that you had.
Yeah, so after my great time at Ainley, I was blessed to receive a scholarship to the University of San Diego. But prior to that, I had already committed to a prep school out in Ontario called TRC Academy, which I had a great time there also. But unfortunately, in our playoff run, in our first game, I went down with a pretty bad injury. I broke my tibula and fibula. It was kind of a freak accident. I was going up for a rebound, and the teammate just fell on me, and just my ankle went to the side. So that kept me out for a long time. I was able to come back, thankfully, and play at San Diego. And then
Sabri, can I just stop on that for just a second, though? Talk about I think it's important to share what a journey, what it's like to have to try to deal with not just the healing physically, but the healing mentally of a serious injury like that.
For sure. I was blessed with the timing of my injury, just because I was young. So it's kind of, I wouldn't say it's easy, but it's easier to bounce back when you're younger.
Yep.
But you hit it right on the head. It's not just physical. It's a lot of mental, being able to trust your body again, not cheat any corners. And there was a lot of long days of, will I be back to how I was before the injury, um, and stuff like that. But through the grace of God and putting my faith in a higher power, and just the countless nights of work and just surrounding myself with great people, it was able to I was able to come back and be a little bit better.
I really appreciate you sharing that. But I think, people, like we were talking in the first segment about Jason Tatum's comeback. When you're on the outside looking in, you do not realize or have any empathy for how hard it really is to come back from a very, very serious injury and set of circumstances. So you made the comeback and you headed down to San Diego.
Yep. So I headed back to San Diego, or I headed up to San Diego. And then, honestly, I didn't feel 100%. So after that season, I took a time just to make a decision to go down to the JUCO level. And I was blessed with the opportunity to go to Navarro College out in Texas and make the best of my time there. And then
how did you like to, I'm sorry to jump in, but people don't know a lot about the JUCO basketball world in Canada. That's a whole different ecosystem. And so on one hand, it's basketball, but on the other hand, it's a real interesting subculture of the sport of basketball. It's very different from Division I in some respects, isn't it?
For sure, big time. Some of the differences is just the resources. Your resources are kind of cut in half. They say the strongest survive in JUCO, which I fully agree with. Playing Division I, you have maybe 4 to 6 coaches on a team. So after practice, you can work out with a coach, or you have trainers that could take care of you after practice. But once you make that jump to JUCO, it's like you got 2 coaches, they got families, so you really got to take care of yourself and make sure you're on top of your gym time and getting your work done and stuff like that. So JUCO is a little bit different. It's a great time, though. I've met a lot of friends, lifelong friends, and brothers now. So I was definitely grateful for the time and was able to build my confidence back up and then receive a scholarship to Stony Brook University out of New York.
Okay, and Sabri Phillips is our guest right now. He is our community champion this week. Sabri, talk about Stony Brook now, out in New York.
Yeah.
Again, that's a conference that a lot of people don't know a lot about, because everybody, of course, who's on the outside looking in is thinking ACC, Big 10, Big 12. But Stony Brook's part of a really good conference, and it's very good basketball.
Yes.
So talk about your experience there, please.
Stony Brook was a blessing. I came in, unfortunately, injured again. A lot of people don't know, but I had a long 6-year career in college with getting a year back from my injuries and COVID as well. So I went through 2 big injuries while I was at Stony Brook. I heard you talking about it. Ironically, before I hopped on, I also tore my Achilles.
Did you? I didn't know that.
First.
Oh my gosh, Sabri.
Yeah. So it was my first summer there. Like I said, the resources at the JUCO level are kind of scarce. So after the season, I was dealing with a little bit of shin pain, and I was told it was just shin splints, but unfortunately, it ended up being stress fractures. So I came into Stony Brook with a boot and some crutches, and I was able to rehab that whole summer. And then unfortunately, we had a close scrimmage at LIU Brooklyn, and I was on a minute restriction, funny enough. And it was the last minute. I seen my sub coming, and it was a long rebound, and I stepped back to plant and just heard a big pop, and it
Same
felt like
thing.
somebody kicked me from behind.
Yep.
Yep. We all have the
It's like a rope
same
snapping,
story.
isn't it?
Exactly. So I went down. I immediately knew what it was. It was a little bit heartbreaking because I worked so hard to get back to that stage of D1. But like any other obstacle or adversity in life, you put your head down, you put your faith in my case, Jesus Christ. And I was able to battle back from that. And then the following year, we had a tremendous year. We were 3 points away from going to March Madness, lost in the conference final. But once again, lifelong brothers, great experiences. And then, finished up my last year. And it was just a great time. Nothing but great vibes and great things to say about Stony Brook University.
Well, before we get to what you're, it's so wonderful to have you back in Edmonton. I do want to talk to you about a couple of things that I think are important bits of wisdom to be shared with young people.
For
Sabri,
sure.
because I'm going to make a couple of proclamations here, if I could call them that. It's a bit dramatic, but I think it's on a personal level. I'd like to share it.
For sure.
So, one of the areas, it's wonderful to see all of the participation in basketball of young people getting involved, the popularization, the growth for boys and girls. It's wonderful. I do have concerns at times because I do feel like families and athletes are sometimes enticed, maybe on the border of not necessarily based in fact, but based in providing dreams that aren't maybe necessarily realistic as reasons to spend money, and in some cases a lot of money, to be part of a club or an organization with the dream of being a D1 athlete one day. Now, everybody has to make their own choice, and dreams, goals, those are important drivers in anybody's life. You've experienced it.
For sure.
Being okay, let's say you're good enough to be a D1 athlete, which, by the way, you can count on 10 fingers the number of D1 athletes that have come out of Edmonton over the years that I've been here, and that's a long time.
Yeah.
But Sabri, it's no joke, is it? Like when you go and you play Division I, that's just a whole different deal in terms of commitment, expectation. I guess the right word is pressure, in amongst the fact that you got to be a student as well, and you're a young person. Is that a fair assessment on my part?
Oh yeah, it's definitely a fair assessment. I think everybody sees the glitz and the glamour of being a Division I athlete, but especially nowadays with how people are getting paid, it's really a job. You're balancing your social life, you're balancing being away from your family, you're balancing being a student, and then also, like in my case, a lot of injuries. So a lot of unexpected adversity and stuff come your way. But for me, and especially my mom always harped at a young age, it's not about the final destination. It's about the life lessons. It's about what you learn and what you're able to retain from the game of basketball. And she always told me this quote: use the game, don't let the game use you. So I carried that with me everywhere I went, and I was able to collect a lot of information and just experiences that I'm thankful for and will help me propel in life. And I'm happy to be back in Edmonton and be somebody that kids can come to and get those answers and those resources from now.
Well, and that's where I want to go as we wrap up our time together, is talk about what you're doing now in how you are working with and helping young people in Edmonton.
Yeah, so I was blessed with coming up in Edmonton with having connections to your family with Steve Sir. I'm sure I bugged him a lot growing up. I was in his DMs asking him for advice, and he was generous enough to respond to me and always give me hope in my journey. Also with Ahir Ugwak, coming up in the same family tree and being able to witness his journey. But I started a training business with a friend of mine called Lars Shimway. It's
Another Ainley alum. We seem to be frozen for the moment here. We'll see Josh if we. There we go. Got him back.
Okay, there we go. But yeah, I started a training company with a friend of mine, Lars Shimway, who also went to Harry Ainley High School and
Yes.
then on to U of A.
Great
and then
career
he's
at U of
also
A.
playing pro. Yeah, he's playing pro now in Africa. And we've started a little training company called Dreams Never Die Lab, which can be found on Instagram. And we're currently working on a website, but we're just trying to give back to the community that has blessed us with opportunities and just resources and wisdom, and just trying to give back to the kids, honestly, be a mentor, and try to give as much game that we have received from our elders and our community and the communities that we've been a part of now, whether it's New York, Texas, San Diego, or in Lars' case, Africa, So, yeah, it's exciting time. Like you said, the game is growing thanks to people like you, thanks to platforms like this. And yeah, we're just trying to be a part of that growth and help kids just achieve their dreams.
Well, and helping kids achieve their dreams, I think, is so critical, Sabri, because what I think the opportunity in a position like you and Lars are in is to share your true experience and wisdom and knowledge and understanding, as opposed to, I think a lot of times kids get notions from people who have never experienced it. So I think the opportunity to share true experiences is great. But you mentioned a word earlier when you were referring to Steve, is providing hope for kids. And whether that hope is on the court or in the classroom or off the court, that is what really, I think that's the greatest thing that basketball can offer people, is hope and confidence that hard work will make you more capable in your life to be successful in however you define success. So the fact that you're there, Sabri, with your kind heart and your great experience, our community is all the better for it.
I appreciate that a lot. And I want to give a special shout out to you. You're one of those people. I didn't know a lot about the game. I just knew I loved it. And you were one of those people that seen that talent in me, thankfully, and pushed me in the right direction. And you and your son, Steve Sir, were a huge part in my journey. So I want to give a special shout out to you and your family. And yeah, you guys are ultimately the reason why we're also giving back. It's people like you that helped us get our foot in the door and get the opportunities we have. So I'm truly thankful for that.
Well, Sabri, that I cannot tell you how deeply that touches me. And I feel so fortunate to have met you as a young person and to have seen your growth and development. And that means the road's been long, it's been hard, it's been bumpy, but like your brilliant mom says, it's taught you. You didn't succumb to the challenges. You met them head on, and now you're there to help other young people meet them head on. You're our community champion, Sabri.
Thank you.
All the best to you and your mom, to Lars, and I look forward to seeing you in the community often, frequently, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. It was a blast.
It was a blast. Sabri Phillip. I mean, how do you make that up, Josh? Like, to have a young man like that on with the kind of wisdom that he brings at such a young age. And man, oh man, that was wonderful. So
incredible story.
It is. It really is one that needed to be heard and said and will be shared. So really grateful for Sabri being on today. We're going to take a break right now. And when we come back, we're going to talk about Canadian March Madness. And if there is time, we'll touch a little bit on March Madness south of the border. But I really want to focus on Canada. Here on Hoop City with Paul Sir, Josh Fenwick. Thank you for joining us this morning on Sports 1440, your sports leader.
Take your skating to the next level with Aligned Custom Skate Performance in Sherwood Park. We make your skates feel like an extension of you. From kids lacing up for the first time to beer league warriors to elite level pros, we fit every skater with precision and care. Only a Duster goes straight from off the shelf to on the ice. Our expert alignment process ensures the perfect fit, eliminating pressure points and maximizing your blade's performance. Aligned Custom Skate gives you the edge where it matters most, on the ice. Stop being the team grocery stick and visit AlignedSkate.com today. Whether it's a full custom fitting or professional sharpening, we've got you covered. So don't just skate, skate aligned. Book your appointment today and feel the difference. Discover why we're trusted by hockey pros and podium champions. Help us cure the bender in your life. Once again, visit AlignedSkate.com to get started.
Custom skate performance with precision meets passion.
If you're without personal health insurance benefits from your employer and are self-employed or retiring, contact Innovative Benefits. Innovative Benefits helps break down personal health plans to put you in the driver's seat and reduce your net cost. They'll help identify the best plan for you and your family so you can pay for what you do use and look how to reduce what you don't use. Don't be left out in the cold. Understand all your options with Innovative Benefits. For more information, visit innovativebenefits.ca today.
Saturday mornings live on Sports 1440. Powered by Subaru. The perfect choice for Alberta's challenging weather and road conditions. Visit Subaru.ca.
Big Brothers Big Sisters ignites the potential in every child. We're calling upon our community. Visit bigbrothersbigsisters.ca. Donate or volunteer today. Together, we can create a bright tomorrow for all our children.
This is Hoop City with Paul Sir on Sports 1440.
They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Curry, way downtown. Bang! Bang! Oh, what a shot from Curry! We did it!
Here's your host, Paul Sir.
Welcome back, everybody, to Hoop City. It's great to be here. What we're gonna do now. Well, first of all, though, Josh, are we getting any texts on goats?
Yeah, so actually we do have a text here. We've been getting quite a few texts, mostly people telling us that lots of Edmonton players are in the NCAA for hockey. And I was like, guys, we're talking about basketball right now. They're like, oh my God, you're right. My bad. And I said, is Jordan or LeBron your GOAT, or is it someone else? However, we did get a text in from Steve. I'm not even sure how to pronounce his last name. Okay. Musso? I'm not totally sure. He said,
sorry about that, Steve, but
yeah, sorry, Steve.
Noble effort.
He says it's got to be Jordan as the hashtag GOAT from Steve M. Steve M. So
we'll go with Steve M. You bet. Yeah. You bet. I hope some other folks will throw their hat into the ring about to win this great hoodie, Hoop City hoodie, as well, about who your GOAT is. But let's talk about March Madness in Canada. Now, I wouldn't call it March Madness. I would call it muted March Madness in Canada, because we just have not been able, I think, as a nation, to galvanize a serious following of our university and college athletics. And I mean, the U.S. is unique. Let's face it. The college tradition down there surrounding sports of all kinds, but particularly basketball and football. They just are lives of their own that are decades and eons in the making. But I want to shed some light on what's going on in the playoffs right now at the post-secondary level in Canada. So I'll start with on the U Sports level, that the men's national championships are being held down at the University of Calgary right now. They had their quarterfinals yesterday, and the University of Calgary lost to the number one seed, the University of Victoria. They put on a good show. I think it was 100-88 that the Dinos lost, and now they're in the consolation rounds. But now today, Victoria plays Bishops, And then TMU with Edmonton Energy's Aaron Rooms, who's been the National Player of the Year this year, will face off against perennial powerhouse Carleton in the men's semifinals today down at the Jack Simpson Gym in Calgary. The women's semis are in Quebec City, and there was a huge upset a week ago where the University of Saskatchewan women, who were undefeated this year, lost to the University of Calgary in playoffs, and they received an at-large bid, and they're squaring off today against Laval. And then Calgary won its quarterfinal game, and they're squaring off against the University of New Brunswick. Now, I'm not really going out on a limb by saying this, but I think there's a very, very strong chance that we're going to see two Canada West powerhouses in the national championship game tomorrow. I really expect and hope that we're going to see the Dinos, Lady Dinos from Calgary, squaring off against the Huskies from Saskatchewan. That would be a tremendous final, particularly in light of Calgary beating the undefeated Huskies in the playoffs a couple of weeks ago. So that's what's going on in youth sports. Now, the ACAC, the Alberta Colleges Athletic Conference, the men are playing in lovely Lloydminster, and we have SAIT battling Lethbridge, two Southern Conference teams for the championship, the ACAC championship, and the right to go to the national championships. And I think there's a good chance that the loser will also be in the nationals next weekend. And then on the women's side, talk about lovely, Caronport, Saskatchewan. You can't beat it. It's only 8 or 9 hours from here, and it's this little town. But while I make jest of it, when I was coaching at Concordia, I love playing at Briarcrest. They have a tremendous community spirit. Briarcrest itself is very, very supportive of their teams. And so I'm sure they're a small town making a big difference and making this a great experience. But we have two Edmonton-based teams squaring off for the championship today. The Nate Ooks will play against the King's University King's University Eagles for the championship, and they have been the two greatest teams of the year in the ACAC. You've got the coach of the year this year playing against the coach of the year last year. Tori Hill from Kings was coach last year. Kira Lyons was coach of the year this year for the Nate Ooks. They're just fantastic programs. Two tremendous women coaches who are great leaders, great mentors, squaring off. So I'm really excited for both of those teams to be battling. And again, hopefully both of them will be selected for the national championships, regardless of who wins. Now, there's also another great event going on in Calgary, something that's near and dear to my heart, which is the Alberta Basketball Association Youth Provincials. They're taking place all over Calgary in a variety of gyms and locations. It's a massive effort to have youth teams ages 9 and up squaring off in various boys and girls divisions at various levels, A's and B's. They may even have C's now. I haven't looked at it this year. But the great people I worked with at Alberta Basketball in my 15 plus years that are there helping make this happen, and that would be, of course, Natalie Hoy and Reagan Wood, doing so much hard work leading this forward, and this really is herding cats for this weekend. It's marvelous mayhem. That'll compete, Josh, with March Madness. Marvelous mayhem in Calgary this weekend, but it's extremely exciting, and to wax philosophic just for a moment, I had the opportunity to be asked by the 1A high school provincial championships, which are being held in the wonderful community, and I think it's Breton, Alberta. 1A school, 75 kids or less. And what a great opportunity for a community to get behind hosting a provincial championship. But one of the messages I shared with the athletes was, this is every bit as important and significant in your lives as it is for Duke or any of the blue blood programs to go to the NCAA Final Four. It's the same thing, just on a different scale. And it's just as meaningful It's not as lucrative. It's not as glamorous. I realize that. But when you get down to the essence of this is playing basketball. And it's playing basketball by accomplishing something, which means you had to win to get there. And so for the kids that are playing at youth provincials, I have some of the fondest memories as a father and a coach of coaching my sons in provincials. Some marvelous, marvelous games and just some great, great opportunities for kids to feel special and to feel part of something. And you move that up the basketball ecosystem and food chain into high school, into college, into university. These are big moments in people's lives that they will carry with them forever. And in fact, I was reflecting that it's 30 years ago that a team I coached from the Otwell Community League went down to Cardston for this marvelous small town host putting together this beautiful provincial championships for boys and girls. Cardston, by the way, has the most gyms per capita in Canada. And a lot of that's due to the LDS passion about sport and about basketball in particular. But anyway, 30 years ago, this Otwell Community League team thrashed a team out of Calgary, which made it all the more satisfying, called Springbank. And here's my story about that. We were in a restaurant in Cardston having breakfast, and the team from Springbank was there. And the coach was saying, you'll have no trouble with this Otwell team. They don't have good uniforms. And Springbank was all decked out in hoodie, all the gear, everything great. And he said, and their coach is really hard on them. They just don't want to even play for him. Well, we went out and beat it. We were up by 30 at halftime, and we absolutely thrashed them. But here it is 30 years later, and these kids were this wasn't U17, this was U15. And but those kids still today, those now men in their 40s, all remember that as a very important part of their basketball upbringing and really an important part of life. So I just really believe strongly that even though we have a muted mayhem here in Canada as opposed to March Madness, it is our own March Madness, and it's something that we have to be extremely proud of and supportive of, and hoping that next year we'll see the University of Alberta, the Pandas and the Bears back in the thick of it. I'm sure we will. They have great coaching. They have great programs and commitment. And really am proud of King's University and Nate on the women's side for what they have been able to accomplish this year in putting together two of the great programs in the province. And I mean, I tip my hat to Kira, who followed up with some coaching experience, but really had to learn baptism by fire at Nate in replacing the great Todd Warnick, who now is at Lakeland College rebuilding their women's basketball program. But Kira's done a great job in making Nate into the contender it is. And Tori at King's. I mean, King's University is a small university, high academic standards, religious-based. She's done a marvelous job of building a great program, again, succeeding her mentor, the late, fantastic, great Brian Anstice. So we have lots to celebrate, to talk about. Next week, we'll have the high school provincial championships happening. March Madness Selection Sunday will be happening. We're into the magical time of year for basketball fans, and I really wanted to take a moment and shine a spotlight on what's happening in Canada, in Alberta, at all age levels, because they deserve to be celebrated. We're going to take a break right now, and when we come back, we will have the deep dive for the next two segments. It'll be part of my interview and conversation with Ben Golliver, Washington Post, Sports Illustrated writer, one of the great NBA writers recognized in the U.S. He also is writing now for Substack and doing phenomenal work as one of the best basketball podcasts available down in the U.S. too. So we'll be back with that discussion. So thank you again for joining us this weekend. You're listening to Hoop City with Paul Sir on your sports leader, Sports 1440.
Start your day with a blast of sports. Kevin Carius, along with Brandon Douglas, brings the fire, the fun, and the fearless takes. Weekdays, 7 to 11. Text Kevin, 883-401-1440. Mornings with Sports 1440. Saturday mornings live on Sports 1440. Powered by Subaru. Confidence in motion. Visit Subaru.ca.
Kidney disease is more common than you think. It affects 1 in 10 Canadians and often develops without any symptoms. If you're living with diabetes or high blood pressure, you may be more vulnerable. Knowing your risk is a simple first step. Taking 1 minute now could help you stay healthy. Visit areyouatrisk.ca. That's areyouatrisk.ca. A message brought to you by the Kidney Foundation of Canada.
When your driveway's covered in snow, Toro and the Lawnmower Hospital have you covered. Toro's gas or battery-powered single-stage power clear snow blowers make it easy to clear right down to the concrete with incredible Toro-powered Propel technology. Face the next snow day without fear thanks to Toro and the Lawnmower Hospital. Visit lawnmowerhospital.com.
The Lawnmower Hospital.
Take the pain out of airport parking with Park to Go. Your first-class parking experience. Book self-serve and valet parking and save up to 30%. Book now with promo code RADIO. That's RADIO.
Your all-access pass to the world of sports is Edmonton's only sports radio station.
From pre- and post-game hockey shows to in-depth analysis from your favorite commentators, the action never stops on Sports 1440.
Sports 1440 in West Edmonton Mall and Wetaskiwin. CKJR is a Stingray radio station.
Download the free radio player app and listen wherever you go.
This is Hoop City with Paul Sir on Sports 1440.
They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Curry, way downtown. Bang! Bang! Oh, what a shot from Curry! We did it!
Here's your host, Paul Sir.
Welcome back to Hoop City with Paul Sir. We're going to go to my interview with Ben Golliver. Ben and I chatted yesterday, which is Friday, and I'll tell you, Ben and I, we had a great conversation. I think you're really going to enjoy this as we go into the weeds about a lot of what's going on with the NBA. So enjoy this conversation with Ben Golliver. Welcome to Hoop City, the deep dive with my good friend Ben Golliver. He joins us again from sunny California. Ben, my background is not actually, I'm not courtside in some city street somewhere. I don't know if you can see my background of the hoop morning, but I thought I'm visiting down in Iowa, and I really don't have a background that I'm comfortable with in my mom's place, and plus mom's around. So I thought we'd go to the heart of what we're talking about, the love of the game of basketball.
I love it. What part of Iowa are you in? Is it Caitlin Clark country or somewhere else?
All of Iowa is Caitlin Clark country, and we all take ownership of Caitlin.
Okay.
She's from down by Des Moines. We're in Northeast Iowa, about 2.5 hours from where Caitlin grew up. And, and maybe we'll have time to touch on the WNBA today, but, because we all want to see Caitlin play again, but man, oh man, that's a group that just can't seem to get out of its own way right now. So, but we really have to start on the Eastern Conference, Ben, because, Eastern Conference is much more interesting than it's been for a long, long time. There's 10 teams over 500. Used to be like 5 or 6. The Charlotte Hornets are a revelation. And why don't we start with them? Of course, the play of Con Kneppel has been fantastic all year. The guy I think, continues not just to make believers, but to demonstrate how important being a great basketball player is in the NBA. Not just a great whatever, but he's the full package. But talk about the Hornets. This ain't the Hornets we're used to at all. What's taking place here?
No, very well said. It looks like a whole brand new team, and it's not even the same Hornets team that started the season. I mean, they were one of the worst teams in the league for probably months to start this year, and they've just had this incredible turnaround. I see a couple of big developments, but I think most of them go back to coaching. When they hired Charles Lee, he was a former Celtics assistant. He first got there, the idea was he was going to bring over a lot of the Celtics philosophies. And the first year, it was like he brought all the bad stuff about the Celtics and none of the good stuff. So they're just shooting a million threes. They're getting up and down the court fast, but they're not really playing that hard defense, that togetherness that we know about the Celtics. They weren't really making the threes as well as the Celtics were. And it just felt like they were not as disciplined as the Celtics. It was very much freelance basketball, and LaMelo's just going to kind of try to put on a show every time. LaMelo Ball, it had been his team in Charlotte for pretty much his entire career because he's a top draft pick. He's very hyped. Everybody knows about him coming out of high school. And so he sort of did whatever he wanted. And that led to a lot of clashes with coaches over the years where he was even getting sit down at times in fourth quarters, not playing in crunch time because he wasn't playing defense. He wasn't really playing basketball the right way. Now, we've seen a different version of LaMelo Ball this year. It's like kind of the light went on for him where he gets off the ball much more quickly. They keep the ball moving. His usage rate is down. His shots are down. It's a much more team-oriented offense. The way I would say it is this is no longer LaMelo's team. This is everybody's team. You know, a lot of people are empowered. Now, the benefit of that is you mentioned Con Knippel. What an incredible draft pick for them. They actually took him higher than a lot of people expected if you go back to like the middle of that draft cycle. But he just kept rising up the boards, and they made it just an incredible pick there. And he's in the race for Rookie of the Year. He might win it if Cooper keeps having some injury issues because he is such a complete player offensively and defensively. Incredible three-point efficiency, so he has tons of gravity when he's out there, but also works hard defensively, very smart, good hands, good feet, all the stuff that you're looking for from a prospect. And then their other important player is Brandon Miller, and he was a good example of what happens if you try to be the Celtics and you take it too far. Last year, all Brandon Miller did was shoot three-pointers. Almost like 60% of his shots were threes. He was never getting to the free throw line. He was hardly taking any twos, not really doing a lot at the rim. And you're thinking this guy was the number 2 pick in the draft, an incredible athletic forward, big 6'9", 6'10" body. He should be in the dunk contest. He's got that kind of athleticism. And all he was doing was chucking threes last year. And they made the right adjustments there. Fewer threes from him, attack the basket a little bit more, get to the free throw line a little bit more. I think there's still more progress for him to show. I think he can be even better than he's looked this season. But he's been an optimized version. And so now you have your 3 best players all playing well. The Hornets are finally healthy, which has been a big problem for them in the past years. And their energy is contagious. Everybody's working hard. The other night, they beat the Celtics in Boston. And to me, the most impressive play of the night was LaMelo Ball, a guy who's never been known for his defense, never been known really as that team first type of guy. It's more about individualism. That's his reputation. The Hornets were up 20 points in the second quarter, and he went sprinting back in transition to deliver a hard foul on Jaylen Brown to prevent a dunk and make him or earn the points at the free throw line. That's great basketball, and that's what everybody wants to see from these young, star-level players, and LaMelo Ball was doing it. So they have a lot to be excited about, and we can start, saying this could be a playoff team. I mean, they could keep climbing up into the top 6 seeds. They could win a series. I mean, this is a really good basketball team that's clicking on all cylinders right now.
I love the way you encapsulated them. It is just that, a real good basketball team. That was a real good basketball team. We watched the other night absolutely take the Celtics apart. They were clearly the superior team that night. And it's not just one of those emotional nights where they're hitting everything. It was a better basketball team preventing the Celtics from doing what they wanted to do, as well as imposing their will on the offensive side. A couple of thoughts on their players. Number one, it's nice to see LaMelo Ball round into this form. The Ball brothers, the Ball family, they were such a lightning rod of controversy because of Dad's high profile, which has been great for the game to have that disappear. Just that's a addition by subtraction right there. But I think it's exciting to see LaMelo, who has been like you described. He was kind of just a free ranger out there, just doing his thing, kind of like a pickup player. He's a serious NBA basketball player now, who's principally leading this team as a point guard and distributing the ball, along with having his abilities offensively to score. You talked very well about Khan, and they've got great role players. I think you mentioned a key element though. And this kind of strikes to something you and I have touched on. We give Oklahoma City a lot of credit, but it's the fact that it seems like there's a greater awareness in the NBA than in recent times of each team trying to identify its strengths and build what they do around their talent, as opposed to let's play like I was just at the Celtics. Let's play like them. And
right.
that is a live by the sword, die by the sword thing, and you got to have the guys they have to be able to pull that off and win a championship. What are your thoughts on that?
No, it's a great point. I mean, look, that's like the age-old thing is like, does the coach start with the system and then try to find players that fit it, or do you start with the players and then craft your system around the players? I think in the NBA, because it's so fluid, players change teams so much, there is a temptation for coaches to have a certain way they want to play. And obviously, Boston was doing a lot right. So, it's a copycat league. If the team's out there winning 60-plus games, some of their philosophies are probably transferable, right? I mean, there's going to, Celtics people are going to say, well, we got a secret sauce up there in Boston. And that may be true. I mean, it's an incredible franchise, but there's probably some things you can take from it. But, you have to make it your own. And I think what, Charles Lee's done there in Charlotte, the idea of like Joe Mazzulla being this taskmaster coach, always staying on his guys. We're never going to take a night off. We're going to try to get the most out of our talent. That's really what I'm seeing come through with Charlotte. And that was the type of team where I always felt they were too loosey-goosey. It's like they come through town, they're young, they're not really taking the layup line seriously. Like that was their reputation for a long time. And it's one of those deals where the expectations are just low. They haven't won in a decade. They haven't been to the playoffs. And so that starts to sink in and guys are like, oh, well, we're just here kind of going through the motions. And Charles Lee said, no, we're not doing the motions thing anymore. We're out here to really play seriously. And I think that they did a nice job of collecting some guys around the edges who you're talking about, the role players who have that kind of spirit. You look at Diabate, the center. I mean, that guy is out there hungry for every single rebound. And he's moving around on defense, moving around on offense. And he's versatile enough where even though he's not a shooter, they can still play a spread 5 offense where he's out of the paint and he's just setting screens at the top of the key, diving in. And so everybody else has a lot of room to work. And so it's a nice fit. It's a little bit of a tweak on what Boston was doing because they had so many big guys who could shoot like Horford and Porzingis, but it's still, it's their own twist on it. Kalkbrenner's the same deal, the other center in Charlotte where he's not going to clog the paint, right? He is just and he'll crash the glass if you need him to, but he's going to be out of the way and creating room for everybody else, which is very helpful. Some of the other guys, Josh Green's always been a high energy guy. Kobe White's come over from Chicago at the trade deadline. He really feels like he's like got a second lease on life. He's playing for a team that actually has a shot and he's really going for it, which is good to see too. And so, you add all these things up, and that's why they've got the momentum. I think the tricky part, though, is they are pretty small if you're talking about like inside. And so that could be the potential weak link here in this playoffs. But at the same time, you look at Indiana, and last year, Miles Turner didn't have the greatest postseason. He's that traditional center, but there was a lot of times where if he's not making shots, it feels like he's not really doing a ton to help. And so I think if you're a Hornets fan, you're just kind of hoping, can we use this late season momentum to make a real playoff run, just like the Pacers did last year? They've got the young legs like Indiana did. They move the ball like Indiana did. They shoot the three-pointer like Indiana did. They play very aggressive defensively, or at least high energy. I think Indiana was probably more aggressive, but they're into guys on the defensive end. And so there's some parallels there, and we'll see. I mean, lightning doesn't always strike 2 years in a row. So you don't want to get their hopes too high up. But for the first time in a really long time, we can say Charlotte has a vision here for winning basketball and having a real identity.
Well, and you used a key word that is not familiar with many Charlotte fans, and that's the word hope.
Right.
they have hope, and they're seeing that hope come to fruition. It's exciting to see. Every year, you want to see which team figures things out and why, and you don't know at the beginning of the season what ingredients are actually going to fit together. Kneppel, you mentioned Kalkbrenner. I think he's not a game changer, but what a valuable asset to have to come in. He protects the rim really well. He finishes around the rim well. Great addition to the team. So it's very cool. Now let's jump over to the Cavs real quickly. We don't have to spend much time on them. But once again, are you seeing the momentum continuing in a positive direction with the addition of James Harden? And now that they're getting a bit healthier, do you see the potential for them to be a real force or a in the mix of the conversation when the playoffs come in the Eastern Conference?
Oh, no question they're going to be in the mix. I mean, they have a lot of talent. You just look at the names: James Harden, Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley, Jared Allen. Those are real names, and you look around the Eastern Conference, there's not that many teams who have that type of star power that would be healthy, out on the court currently. And then also, not a lot of teams are spending as much as Cleveland either. I mean, they're paying for the price to be in this mix. And I think that's why use money's worth. That's what ownership was saying. And I think they actually did a really good job. So Harden comes in, and he obviously plays the same role that Darius Garland was going to play in terms of starting point guard, lead initiator, but he's bigger, stronger, more proven, and I just think overall a better player. So that's just a very clear upgrade. The other trade they did that didn't get as much attention is they sent out DeAndre Hunter. They brought in Keon Ellis and Dennis Schroeder. Now, Keon Ellis is a really interesting addition for them because he's that scrappy defensive guard who's going to kind of get after people and just, be physical, be annoying, and you need to press full court. He can do that. And now you have this combination of him and Jalen Tyson, who's a guy who they've been cultivating for a while. It gives them a level of grittiness that they didn't have in last year's playoffs. It felt like when that series against Indiana got away from them, it was because Indiana was going on like 22-0 runs. And you're looking around saying, are they ever going to get a stop, or is this just going to go on forever, right? And I don't think that's going to happen in this year's playoffs. They have a little bit of a different identity with those two guys, both being, physical perimeter defenders. And Schroeder, he's not the world's most physical guy, but he can also press full court. He could just be aggravating. It's just a little bit of a different feel. I just thought Cleveland was soft last year when they got to the playoffs, and they were just a little bit of a pushover. It was a beautiful team to watch in terms of how they scored the basketball last year, but when it came time to do the dirty work, they just really weren't ready to do it. I think they're more prepared to do it this year. My biggest hang up with them, it's a lot of new faces, right? I mean, they have a lot of these guys who just bounce from team to team to team. I mean, I mentioned Schroeder, but they also have Thomas Bryant. You just go down their roster. A lot of the new faces are guys who are sort of here today, gone tomorrow type of guys. You could even throw Harden into that mix because he's played for so many teams. So they're trying to bring a lot of these strangers together on a very short timeline, right? A lot of these guys came at the deadline. Now you're trying to go win in the playoffs. That usually doesn't work. You can bring in one guy and it could be transformative and you can go on a run, but often it's hard to get that chemistry and that cohesion together on a short timeline. So that's my biggest question for them. But I think they have to be feeling great about the trade deadline. I think they're looking right now as the biggest winners of the trade deadline with the moves they made.
I'm talking with Ben Golliver. Ben and I are talking in depth about the Eastern Conference. And the final team that I'd really like to get your thoughts on is, of course, what could be happening tonight. We're recording on Friday, that a guy named Jason Tatum might be back in the Celtic lineup. A remarkable, just lightning fast recovery from an Achilles rupture last year, coming back into a team that has exceeded expectations this year. I think we as well as the Celtics have played, as good as they are, it's still hard to see this lineup going deep into the playoffs in a 7-game series, I think. But the addition of Tatum, exciting on one hand. I don't know if the right word's concerning, Ben, but it's a question mark. Is this still Jaylen Brown's team? Is Tatum willing to come back and fit in around what they've done this year? How will the coaching staff handle Jason Tatum? What are your thoughts on that? I don't have a sense for who Tatum really is. Like, he says and does the right things. Seems like a real good, solid guy. But when you get in the locker room and on the court behind the scenes, you don't know what you don't know. But what are your thoughts? What does this mean to the Boston Celtics?
Well, I mean, it's a huge emotional lift for them because, he is their biggest star. He's the fan favorite. And so I'm sure it's going to be in a raucous atmosphere. I mean, he's going to get some crazy, crazy cheers when he gets out there. I'll be honest, I'm a little bit nervous. I mean, 10 months to me feels fast. Not the doctor, not involved in his recovery. but I am just bracing. Like, I'm just hoping for the best. I'll put it that way. Like, Kevin Durant took 18 months. That felt like the smartest decision anybody ever made. Look at how much high level basketball he's played after such a long time off after he tore his Achilles. I get that Tatum is younger, and so he's just itching to get back. And I just really hope the decision works out well for everybody, because he's a really important player in the NBA, not only just for the Celtics, but for the entire league, one of the faces of the league. The interesting part about Tatum and how he fits back into the Celtics is that his role evolved over the course of his career. So this was not LeBron coming in as a rookie and the ball is in his hands. I mean, Tatum played a lot as a rookie and he stood in the corner, and then he got to a little bit more touches, and then he got to handle the basketball a little bit more. And then all of a sudden he's the number 2 guy. And then all of a sudden he's the number 1 guy. And now he's the guy who can kind of do whatever he wants and everyone fits around him. It was a very gradual evolution. So he actually personally knows every single role they could possibly ask him to play, right? Because he's done it actually in the NBA. Now it's hard to go back to what you were doing previously. Once, it's like the whole thing. Once you sit in first class, you never want to go back to coach. That's true. I mean, everybody could relate to that. But he has done those other things, which a lot of stars haven't done. This is not LeBron after 20 years of having the ball saying, wait a minute, Luke is the guy now? What do I do? I'm lost. It shouldn't be the case. It doesn't mean it's going to go perfectly, but I have faith that, it's going to go smoother than most people think. This is a really good team without him, and so I think for Jason, I think the mentality really is like, don't screw things up, go in with a light touch and then just build up as you go. And I think that could be really, really helpful for them. I do know he has a close relationship with the coaching staff, especially Missoula. And of course, he's played with Brown forever. And those guys have, it's been a decade now, basically. And so I think you throw those relationships into the mix, and I'm pretty optimistic it's going to work out okay.
Smart, connected, community driven. Jason Greger sets the standard for sports talk in Edmonton. Join the conversation on Sports 1440. Text Greger 833-401-1440. Sports 1440, where Edmonton talks sports.
Own and run a small business? Innovative Benefits provides private health service plan setup, as well as administration services for businesses like yours. But the best part is, Innovative Benefits offers benefit plans
of reference,
that
I think a lot of that some people who are
40% less. And they provide 100% coverage with no insurance company rules, administration, or interference. So if you have medical, dental, or healthcare expenses, their plans will always increase your cash flow. Visit innovativebenefits.ca for more.
Legacy Heating and Cooling is the #1 heating and cooling company for people who want heating and cooling, because you'll save a bundle by bundling. Then you can use hot, cold, come on thermostat, do what you're told. Turn up the heat, turn up the cold, to the vents start pushing out tornadoes. Bundle my furnace with some AC, gonna get a deal from Legacy. Oh yeah. Save a bundle when you bundle your new furnace and AC from Legacy today. Plus no payments and no interest for 1 year. That's how you build your legacy. Legacy Heating and Cooling.
Saturday mornings live on Sports 1440. Powered by Subaru, a world-class leader in environmental performance. Visit Subaru.ca.
Take the pain out of airport parking with Park to Go. Your first-class parking experience. Book self-serve and valet parking and save up to 30%. Book now with promo code RADIO. That's RADIO.
From the first face-off to the final, Sports 1440 is your home for hockey talk. With live coverage, expert analysis, and pre- and post-game shows. We bring you closer to the game. Tune in 24/7. Only on Sports 1440, Edmonton's sports station. This is Hoop City with Paul Sir on Sports 1440.
They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Curry, way downtown. Bang! Bang! Oh, what a shot from Curry! We did it!
Here's your host, Paul Sir.
the frame of reference. I think a lot of that some people who are hopeful that the recovery time was enough would be Adrian Peterson with the Vikings. Ruptured his Achilles, and I think it was 6 months later, and he had a record season. So, and of course, we're talking about people that just aren't wired the same way. Like they're just different. They're just different brand of athlete, and their ability to recover the techniques. So much has happened with the Achilles, which is still a brutal injury, but to be able to come back successfully isn't unheard of anymore. And to come back, we'll see. We'll see if Tatum's, if Jason's body's able to hold up. I'm cautiously optimistic that it will, and I think you've laid it out really well, Ben, about what this should mean to the Celtics and how this should help them as they go into the playoffs.
Well, we're going to get real quick. We're going to have a fun contrast here because, Halliburton had the same injury and it was around the same time, a little bit later because it happened at the end of the finals.
Yes.
They took the cautious approach, right? So they just shut him down for the whole season. We're not going to be able to compare it until Halliburton's back, but it's also one of those things where 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 4 years from now, we can see which of these guys is progressing. Is there any difference? Are they both back to normal, which would be the dream scenario? If that's the case, that would probably help ease my concerns. But you go down the list of guys who have had Achilles injuries in the NBA, and of course, this is going back in some cases to the 80s and 90s, and it's a career-altering injury. It has been in a lot of cases. It doesn't have to be, like you said. There's been a lot of progress, and Kevin Durant's a shining example that you can come back from this thing. But I do think the fact that these two teams have played it differently, Boston and Indiana, it's going to give analysts like us, something to be tracking here over these next couple of years. Who did it better? Who's back up to speed? And we're going to be able to ask those questions.
Well, and in Indiana's case, they have nothing to play for. So Halliburton coming back, like that's a big why. Why in the world would you risk that to come back to a season that a lot of advantages to the amount of L's they have in the column right now in terms of what it looks like when the draft comes around. So it'll be interesting. It'll be real interesting to see. I'm excited. I feel for anybody who's had an Achilles injury. I've had it, and it's miserable. And to see a guy work that hard, come back this quickly, and if he's able to meaningfully contribute and help this team, which has just been fantastic and exceeded expectations at the level that they have this year, it's exciting to see. Ben, let's jump over to the West. Thunder have stabilized what people thought might be a little bit of a wavering in terms of their ability to be seriously considered as the team that is heavily favored to repeat again this year. They're 8-2 in their last 10. SGA is back. He's playing like SGA did. Real nice, real fun game to watch the other night against the Knicks. Mike Brown afterwards was pretty salty, adding to the choir that has grown about SGA's ability to bait the officials into making calls. Nobody does it better. But bottom line is, they're still not 100% healthy, but the Thunder are playing really well. And it's not all the same names as last year. Yeah, with Jalen Williams out. The other guys, like we've talked about often, and a lot of people have pointed out, this is a great young team with incredible depth of talent. And they have been awfully tough to deal with.
Well, I think, they are a sleeping giant, even though they're the number one seed, because they would be so much better if they had anything close to normal health this season. I thought they have survived the Jalen Williams stuff incredibly well. They had Hartenstein out for a long time. He's crucial to their wins, losses. They survived that very well. I thought Shea goes out, it's sort of like with Joker going down with Denver. I thought both teams were really going to show it in the standings without their main guys. They survived Shea's absence quite well, and it was so great to see him back on the court this week playing high-level basketball. I guess it was maybe last week when they were playing the Nuggets, and it was just a fantastic game where it got real chippy because of Lou Dort. But, great moments from Shea, great moments from Joker. It's not the perfect MVP showdown because they play such different positions and different styles, but you're really seeing great stuff from both those guys, and it was really nice to see Shea back. What's so impressive about Oklahoma City, their ability to mix and match the lineups throughout all these injuries, right? It's like they have different guys who can plug in. A.J. Mitchell was looking like a really key player earlier in the season. Well, maybe he misses time. Well, now Cason Wallace gets the opportunity to step up and do a little bit more. Just their fluidity in terms of being able to, redefine who they are on the fly. It's incredible. It's honestly, it's a reason why Mark Daigneault should get mentioned in the Coach of the Year conversation again. He's not going to win it this year. There's a lot of good candidates and people higher than him on the, most people's ballots, but he does a great job in terms of always putting out five-man lineups that make sense and that, support each other and fit together well. Of course, it starts with the defense. That's their bread and butter. And if you always play elite defense, you're always going to have a chance, right? And that's sort of been their mantra. I think that they should still be viewed as the championship favorite. This is a wide open race. We're talking about all these different teams in the Eastern Conference who maybe have a shot to get in, whether it's Boston, Cleveland, New York, Detroit, of course, the number 1 seed over there. And there's been some interesting challengers in the West as well. San Antonio, Denver, Minnesota, the list goes on. So right there, it's almost 10 teams who have a chance at the championship. And that was Adam Silver's vision. We want to have a parity league where everybody's got a shot. But even with all of that being said, Oklahoma City looks like the best team in the league, even though they've been playing with like 75% of their guys healthy. If they can get healthy before the playoffs, right? If they can work Jalen Williams back in, if some of these other guys could just, maintain their health, they have a talent, experience, and cohesion advantage over everybody, right? So I think they still deserve to be viewed as the favorites, even though they're not really getting as much hype right now as they did at the start of the season when they started 24-1 and everybody thought, oh my God, 74 wins, here they come, right?
Yep, absolutely. I do want to mention, and not dwell, but I do want to mention the Lou Dort foul on Jokic, where Jokic, now is the viral social media viral clips of Jokic really, really losing it. I thought, you know what, Ben? I thought the Joker's response was spot on. That had all the makings of an intent to injure. And it was you never know because you're not there, but to the eye test said that was intent to injure. That was a dirty play, intentionally done, maybe not to injure per se, but it was so uncalled for and so out of the realm of reasonable. And I don't think the NBA, to be honest, I don't think they took it seriously enough. I thought that was, and I think that, to me, that was the straw that broke the camel's back with Joker, because like the guy gets pounded on all the time, by everybody. And a lot of people, I was listening to Sam Mitchell the other day, and he made the great point. Big guys, he was talking about Caruso guarding Joker last year, and how when you get underneath and into their knees, underneath, that's tough to play against. And that's a foul. And the officials don't call that. Now, though, this is an open court intentional move. But I feel for Joker and I feel for all the big guys. And I'm glad in one sense that the spotlight's is shining on this, because I think it is a real problem. It's like Connor McDavid for the Oilers. The only way you can stop him is by clutching and grabbing him, because otherwise he's gonna just blow by you. So guys with lesser talent are able to handcuff other people through what I consider to be really questionable styles of play that can not just hurt the player, but that are clearly fouls. That's my tirade for the day.
I hear a lot of what you're saying. My dad was a center in high school, and he used to give me the same speech about, hey, there's a burden of being a big man, right? Where your size counts against you in the referee's eyes. They decide they can't call every single foul, and maybe it's not fair because you're taller, so they let the little guys get away with it. But God forbid a big guy ever puts his hand on somebody, then immediately the whistle blows, right? So that's age-old basketball stuff. It definitely applies here when you have a big guy who's as skilled as Joker, because as you're saying, well, if you don't rough him up a little bit, he's going to have a triple-double and you lose. So you better try something, right?
You got to try something. Yep.
The Dort thing, though, as you're pointing out, that it was not a basketball play. It was cheap. And when you look at Dort's reaction, I mean, he looks like a bank robber who gets caught with the dye packs on his hand. It's like, he's red-handed. So, he's trying to play it off like, what, me? But, he knew. And ultimately, he did come out and acknowledge, hey, I crossed the line. I shouldn't have done that, which I thought was appropriate. So Dort was ejected with the flagrant foul too, which there was some debate. Would that even happen? It sounds to me like you thought he should be suspended too. Is that right?
I think he should have had 3 games.
Wow.
I think he should. I think a message should have been sent that you just can't do anything like this, and you can't allow that to enter into the game, because we all know there's a lot of stuff that happens off ball. But I just think that when something's like that, and here you got a guy in you can't necessarily bring special circumstances into a decision like that. You got a guy just coming back from a knee injury, and now you're going for his knees. Like, you just can't do that. Heck, even the NFL has a lot of protections against people's knees. You just can't do certain things. So that's where, it, like you said, the age-old problem, little guy getting in underneath the big guy into their knees, that's just not appropriate. Bodying up, being physical, all of that, 100%. But the way you defend the big guy when you're a small guy with a disadvantage, that isn't appropriate. I think they let it go too far. And of course, with Dort, I just think that signal needs to be stronger. You just can't have that enter into the game. Especially with injuries, like we talked so much, man. Sorry, just so much about injuries in the game. And now you got somebody clearly trying to injure somebody, intentional or not. Do something about it and send the signal you want this to stop, because you sure as heck don't need that to add to the injury problems.
Well, very well said. I think during the game, it's hard to ask the referees to take into account, oh, well, do they have to know which knee Joker's been injured and so forth? And they reached the right decision. But I think what you're saying is when the NBA does the review of the play and they're trying to decide, the league office, should there be a suspension, I think it's appropriate to take into account whether somebody's targeting a body part that's recently been injured. All that information is public. People are gambling on players' health. I mean, the injury status part has become formalized in the NBA to a great degree. And so, yeah, I would actually say that should be, considered as they're weighing possible suspensions or that kind of stuff, because it adds a level of, maliciousness that you don't want. And again, it's just a non-basketball part. And hopefully it's pretty quick to stamp that out. This play actually reminded me, and the reason why, if anyone's thinking, oh, these guys are going overboard, all it was a little bump, there was no chance he was going to get injured. Go back, if you remember the playoffs, we're going back like 10 years, but Patrick Beverley kind of jumped up defensively on Russell Westbrook as he was going towards the sideline, I believe, to call a timeout. And it was just an awkward exchange. Westbrook kind of had a false step, but it actually wound up where Westbrook needed knee surgery, and it was a season-ending situation. And a lot of bad stuff came from that. I mean, Patrick Beverley was getting death threats from Oklahoma City Thunder fans, and, it was really chippy for a while afterwards. But those kinds of little plays, and I think honestly the Dort one was maybe even more intentional than what Beverley did. But there is a serious intent to injure. You're not overstating it when you say that about that particular play. And I would just point back to that Westbrook deal as a similar situation that ended with a worst case.
I'm drawing a blank. I should know. I'm drawing a blank on the San Antonio Spurs, or the player that went under Kawhi Leonard.
Oh, Zaza Pachulia.
Yeah. Yes. Zaza Pachulia. Those are the things that you just, my God, you just can't do that. Those are the avoidable, just coming down to, what you're doing, just don't do it. And how that altered Kawhi's career trajectory, literally. So anyway, but it'll be interesting to see how the rest of the season unfolds, but it kind of lends itself then to the reputation the Thunder have, and everybody's going to poke at the top dog and say, oh, they're dirty, they get away with everything. They don't, Shea doesn't get, he's getting everybody, he's getting all the calls, going to the free throw line. So it makes a little intrigue. I'm going to start.
Well, it's better though, because, last year they had the chance to be America's heroes and they were not embraced. People, they showed respect to the Thunder, but this was not a beloved team. I think it's actually better if they're the villains, right? And then just set them up as the bad guys, and then we'll see if the bad guys can continue their reign. It's a better story.
It is a better story. It is intriguing. Nuggets are a little shaky right now, just as a team. They can't guard. Their bench depth has been pretty suspect. Of course, they miss Watson. They miss Gordon. Those are huge pieces. But like the other night against Utah, I mean, Jamal had 49. Jokic had a good game, and they could barely beat a Jazz that, again, is in that category of name 3 Jazz players, please. It's a no-name team just patched together without any real strengths at all. And the Nuggets, it took everything the Nuggets had to beat them. They just are. The right word's fun. They're just not that good right now, and that that certainly can change when they get completely healthy, if they get completely healthy. But what's your read on the whys of that?
Well, I think Joker has not been himself since he came back from the injury, and The defensive stuff is the most glaring, where, he's just not moving and, covering and as locked in as he needs to be to really win at a consistent level. And so that's a problem. Offensively, it feels like his touch has been off too. I'm seeing him miss these little the floater shots, the push shots that he always hits. I'm seeing him miss some 3-point shots badly, and he's become a great 3-point shooter during this MVP run. And so maybe you call it rust, I'm not sure exactly, but he also came back from that knee injury pretty quickly, and his timeline of coming back allowed him to stay in the MVP race. So it becomes one of those things. It was like, well, if there was no 65 game minimum to be eligible for awards, maybe he would have taken another 2 weeks or another 3 weeks to make sure he was completely healthy, because he just didn't really look ready to go when he's come back. And it's astonishing. They're playing worse basketball wins-loss wise with him back than they did when he was out. So that's never been the case. It's always been, if Joker's on the court, you win 70% of your games basically in Denver, right? And so it's kind of this bizarro world. But you hit on it. They need Aaron Gordon. They need Peyton Watson, right? They just have to have those guys. Otherwise, they don't have enough. And really what's been challenging for Denver is they've had enough injury issues this season where they've been forced to run up the minutes of their key guys. Right. And I just think they're also exhausted and running out of gas. They're not old, right? Joker's still kind of in his prime. Murray's in his prime age-wise, late 20s, right? Early 30s for those two guys. However, this is a young league now, and it's exhausting. Everybody plays so fast. Everybody plays so hard night in and night out. You've been fighting for playoff positioning every single night now since October, basically, because it's such a dogfight in the West. And to me, they're showing signs of real fatigue. And so I wonder, first of all, are they going to be limping into the playoffs? And then if they do, are we sure they're getting out of the first round? Or is this going to be one of those years where it's just like, hey, we ran out of gas, we didn't have it? Yeah. You remember that year when they lost to Minnesota in the second round?
Yes.
They were just plumb exhausted by the end of Game 7, right? It was the last man standing, and it wasn't them. I could see a similar scenario this year, but happening even earlier if they get the wrong playoff matchup. If they slip a little bit in the standings, all of a sudden, maybe they're 5-6 seed somewhere in there. I could see them going home early. And so that's the scary part. That's why they need Gordon back in particular. It's like if they can get him back, maybe he stabilizes things, the minutes get back to normal, they can get a little momentum heading into the playoffs. But it really does not feel like they're still the number one challenger to Oklahoma City. It feels like there's some other teams out there that might be better.
You can listen to the entire interview with Ben Golliver on your favorite podcast network under Hoop City with Paul Sir, The Deep Dive. And you can also read Ben's great writings, both on basketball, but just on his life experiences on Substack as well. And I'll tell you what, it's worth the subscription because the writings of Ben and many other contemporary writers is really worth your time. So want to thank Ben Golliver for joining us, sharing his knowledge. I hope you'll enjoy the entire interview, as I said, on your favorite podcast network.
From the locker room to your radio, Sports 1440 is Edmonton's sports leader. Real talk, big personalities, and your texts. It's interactive. It's fun. It's where Edmonton talks sports. Sports 1440. Saturday mornings live on Sports 1440. Powered by Subaru. Welcome to Uncommon. Visit Subaru.ca.
Is your business ready to grow? Not sure how? We have your solution. We are Stingray. Whether your customers are around the corner or across the country, Stingray connects you with radio to digital advertising, including connected TV, search and social, programmatic, digital advertising, and digital out of home. From idea to execution, we've got you covered. With creative and production, cross-platform integration, detailed reporting, and one-on-one support, it's the easy way to make your business grow. Get started now at stingraymediasolutions.com.
The weather doesn't care about your shift or your schedule. Carhartt Rain Defender sweatshirts let you battle back against the ever-changing elements. Carhartt's durable, water-repellent technology lets light rain beat up and roll right off. Layer up and stay on the job longer without getting drenched. Get your Carhartt Rain Defender sweatshirts at all 3 of our Edmonton job site workwear locations.
Job site workwear, some different jobs.
For families raising children with disabilities, compassionate help is available. Heart 2 Care Home Care provides highly trained caregivers for respite care, personalized support with daily activities, and more. Visit heart2care.ca.
hot coffee, hotter takes, and the sports stories that matter. Check out Kevin Carius weekday mornings from 7 to 11 on Edmonton's sports leader, Sports 1440. Be part of the conversation. 833-401-1440. This is Hoop City with Paul Sir on Sports 1440.
They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Curry, way downtown. Bang! Bang! Oh, what a shot from Curry! We did it!
Here's your host, Paul Sir.
Welcome back to Hoop City with Paul Sir, Josh Fenwick, as we go into the final segment of the show today. Thank you all for joining and listening, and certainly hope you've enjoyed the conversation we had with Sabri Phillip and then Ben Golliver's great analysis as well. And you can listen to Ben's entire conversation with me on your favorite podcast network under the Hoop City with Paul Sir Deep Dive. So, Josh, let's go over to the GOAT conversation and give me your impression of who should be winning our Hoop City hoodie today.
Yeah. So after we made that second call to people, text in, vote on the thing, whatever tickled your fancy. We got quite a few texts in. 100% across all platforms, Michael Jordan is your NBA GOAT. So took a bunch of names, spun them in a wheel, a la my predecessor, the Duke of Delburn, and it came out with Cat Dad, who said, Jordan never would have taken a personal day. Never would have taken a personal day. That is the GOAT. Or taken a maintenance day is his exact words. So, Cat Dad, I don't know if you're listening. I'll make sure I get your information over to Paul so we can get you that nice hoodie. I'm still personally waiting on mine, but hopefully you get yours faster.
You know what I did, Josh, is I finally went to where they were stored, and I picked a bunch of them up before I left to go down to the States. So they will come in. Now the next hurdle for me is to remember to bring them with me when I come to the studio.
That's a classic right there.
Yep. So that's, I'm not the most reliable when it comes to that. But Cat Dad, thank you for that. And I think you make such a great point about Michael Jordan. He's part of that era of athlete that were warriors that would play 82 games unless some sort of injury just made it impossible for do so. But a part of the badge of honor of being a pro athlete was being on the court every night. And you know who a guy is that embodies that right now? There's actually several of them, but one is Wemby. Even though Wemby has had injuries, he wants to play every night. He does not want to buy into load management. But another guy is Harrison Barnes, who also plays for the Spurs. And Harrison Barnes has been an Iron Man throughout his career, has missed very, very few games, has several 82-game seasons. And I still love the stat, Josh, more than any, of Wilt Chamberlain in 1962 playing all 82 games, and his average minutes per game were 48.5. He played 0.5 minutes more because of the overtimes they had. And he was on the court every minute of every game for 82 games plus overtime. It's just an unthinkable statistic.
You'd never ever see that again. It's truly ridiculous. Did you know last season Harrison Barnes was the only player to play 82 games?
I certainly think so. I'm not surprised at that at all. Stockton was an Iron Man. He had several 82-game seasons. There are some guys that just played, but I think it's intent, where I think a lot of athletes have bought into the load management strategy and taking games off and maintenance nights. And I'm not saying there probably isn't some wisdom in that, because that's a whole different discussion that we've touched on the show over the year about the game today versus the game then. And there's, all kinds of debates. So I think oftentimes old school people are just so easy to jump to the conclusion that the athletes today just don't care in the same way and they're not willing to compete. I certainly think that's true in some cases, but in other cases, it's just the physical realities of how, how the game is played today, the pace it's played at, the speed, the athleticism, all of those factors have tested the human body in a different way from the older games where the pace of play wasn't nearly as fast.
Yeah, no, absolutely. He's also a guy that he averages 31 minutes across his career a game.
Yeah. It's not like he's it's not like he's a 4-minute a game guy playing 82 games, getting in for garbage time. The guy was has been a starter pretty much his whole life, or a sixth man. He's kind of slipped into that role now with the Spurs as they continue their path of developing their outstanding young talent. But yeah, you're right. He puts in a lot of minutes, but he takes care of his body, takes care of his mind, and he makes it a badge of honor to be that kind of Iron Man. Want to take care of some business here. First, want to give a promotion out to the Shooting Stars All-Star Game, March 27th and 28th. This is for girls across the province. It's a great opportunity for girls to play in an all-star environment. It's both 3x3 and 5-on-5. Brian Utley and his crew have been doing it for well over 35 years. Go to albertashootingstars.com. Again, albertashootingstars.com to register for this outstanding opportunity to be recognized for your efforts throughout the season. I also am really excited to announce the first Hoop City event this year on our Hoop City 3x3 calendar. And that's going to be our year 2 of our Hoop City 3x3 School Festival for grades 7 through 12 for all public and separate schools in the Edmonton area to enter into a 3x3 event. It's only $100 per team. You're guaranteed at least 4 games. They'll all be played at Ross Shepherd High School on April 11th. It is a ball. So make sure you get your team registered and come on out for our Hoop City School Festival, grades 7 through 12, boys and girls. You can have 5 players on your team. Make sure that you join us. And we have more events that are going to be announced for 3x3 coming up very, very shortly. Podcast, you can listen to our entire program on your favorite podcast network. As I mentioned before, including the breakout of the deep dive with Ben Golliver as well. And some final thoughts to wrap up the week, Josh. I'm really curious over the course of this week, as we've touched on both with Ben Golliver and in our conversation after the Denver Nuggets last night, to see if the Nuggets can rebound a bit, well, literally too, rebound and play defense, as their rebounding has been atrocious, or if they're just wearing out, as Ben indicated. Another couple of teams that I'm very interested to watch are Detroit. Pistons still have a 4-game lead in the East, but the Boston Celtics now with Jason Tatum back, although the big kid, Vucevic, just got hurt. He's going to be out for at least a month, but they get Tatum, so I think that's a net positive. So can the Celtics keep it up? Other teams that are hot, though, Charlotte Hornets. We talked about them. Can they continue their outstanding play? Minnesota Timberwolves. Everybody knows I'm a Timberwolves homer. Absolutely, but they've been playing extremely well, and the trade with Dosunmu has been outstanding for the Wolves, as they really seem to have solidified. And by the way, in my conversation with Ben, we go into detail on the Timberwolves resurgence, both the play of Anthony Edwards, the addition of Dosunmu, some of the play of the other role players that's coming on, but also the rejuvenation of Rudy Gobert, who I think will be finishing second this year behind Wemby in terms of Defensive Player of the Year, an award he won last year. But Gobert's playing the best basketball I've ever seen him play. And that's not something I'd ever thought I'd say, because I think, Rudy's an acquired taste, kind of the classic old big guy. But I think that, Gobert has been a big part and instrumental in the resurgence of the Timberwolves, who really, they're up to third now in the Western Conference. And a month ago, you didn't think that would ever happen. But Anthony Edwards is a stud. He's playing fantastic basketball. So exciting times, Western Conference and Eastern Conference. And that I think is what's great to say right now, Josh, is that the Eastern Conference is so relevant this year. Will Detroit be able to hang on? Will Boston's resurgence or in consistent play continue? But the Eastern Conference, really fun. Miami Heat are playing really well. With Tyler Hero back, they're playing really well. So there's just some cool things happening all around the NBA.
Yeah, no, my team to watch continuously, and I've had a lot of conversations about this. Got on the train early with one of my coworkers, Declan, was the Charlotte Hornets. We're like, man, what are they putting in the water down in Charlotte? Essentially, like since the new year. So we've been all in on what it is the Hornets are building down there because they're really fun to watch. And LaMelo Ball, before our very eyes, is turning into a winning basketball player, which in my wildest dreams, I never would have thought. So I'm here for all the Hornets games.
Well, I think you're absolutely right. And let's all remember Jermaine Buckner, Ross Shep alum, is part of that coaching staff. So he's had an impact in the NBA this year. Music in the background is a song by my son, Ben, with his band Worst Days Down. It's a tribute to David Finkelman. David was tragically killed by a careless driver while crossing a street. We lost our son, Ben, to trauma and addiction almost 3 years ago. Every show, I make a point of sharing that information, not to make people uncomfortable, but to make them aware. You never know what people are going through in their lives. And so always think the best of other people and always be there to give a kind word or a helping hand to those in need. And make sure you take the time to tell the people that are important in your life that you love them, because they are the treasures in your life, whether that's family or friends, that need to be acknowledged and appreciated every day of our lives. I appreciate you, Josh, and all that you do to make this show possible. Thank you for this week doing this remotely. I think it went swimmingly, to be honest. This is great.
I agree. Just don't stay in Iowa much longer, okay? We don't want to lose you in a cornfield, even though that sounds impossible because you're so tall.
The view out of the window I'm at right now is kind of a la Field of Dreams. There's no corn stalks there, but it's lovely. It's pastoral. It's like going back in time. But I'll be back in the studio next week.
All right. I'll see you next week, Paul. Appreciate you too, buddy.
All right. Well, you guys, everybody out there, thanks so much for joining us today on Hoop City with Paul Sir, Josh Fenwick. Have a great week on and off the court. Take care. Be safe. And we look forward to talking next week as March Madness starts kicking off at full speed. Take care, everyone.
Get the lowdown with Low Tide. Weekdays from noon to 2 on Sports 1440. You've seen it all.